So if you're telling me that Chevy, which makes one of the most iconic sports cars of all time, the Chevy Corvette, would be dropping millions of dollars into electric vehicles, I would tell you you're freaking nuts. Well, that's like saying that a full-size truck could drop the hammer in the 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds and smoke a Porsche Taycan. Well, that's the case. Okay, so I get it. You want to hear all about the performance. You're probably less interested in what's going on with the design, but we're going to talk about it because it's really important, relevant, especially when you're talking about electric vehicle. So first and foremost on this thing, you're going to notice up on the front is no standard grille, right? You don't have a grille on front for one reason. You don't need ventilation to cool down your engine. It's electric. You've got LED lights that wrap the entire front of the Chevy Silverado EV. That's one defining moment that just kind of says, all right, this is not your standard gas-based truck. LED lights here on the side, kind of coming down the front. Again, removal of grille with just some accents in here, just to give you that feeling of having, a bold-faced truck. Radars and sensors up on the front, of course, needed for front crash avoidance, lane departure warning, and adaptive cruise control, which we'll talk about in a minute when we talk about Super Cruise. As you make your way down the side of this Silverado EV, you've got 22-inch wheels on the side. I always love to do my knock test. Plastic, right? So these are inserts that can pop out. They're put on here for aerodynamics. It's just meant to help reduce any type of friction against the side of the vehicle, and it's supposed to, most importantly, do what? Give you better fuel economy. You're running 22-inch wheels with Bridgestone tires on them. Great tire, great performing tire. For the everyday drivers. You make your way down the side, marketing team getting a little bit creative, so the Silverado name with the E bolstered right there in the middle. By the way, this is the Ultium logo, which is kind of unique in design, right? Coming all the way down, nothing fancy, monochromatic, built into the side. You've got your little buttons here that allow you to easily access the vehicle, lock and unlock. Steps all the way down. Now, this is kind of unique here. For all you historical Chevy Silverado people, what's this remind you of? This reminds you of the Chevy Avalanche. Chevy Avalanche. Didn't like the Avalanche, but I do like it on this. I think it's pretty cool. We make our way all the way around the back. Big, bold brake lights on this thing. I do love the step in the rear of the tailgate and the bumper, so your ability to step inside the truck bed. And then you've got a hard top here. We talk about the multifunction tailgate. You got your outlets here for trailering as well, which are fantastic. And then you look down below, of course, you got all your trailering capacities. Very simple design on this thing. Not a lot of frills. It's all truck. So let's talk about charging. The modern day EV owner's equivalent to a bathroom break, a lunch stop, or in my case, the equivalent of maybe a 30 to 45 minute power down nap on the side of the freeway on a long trip. What do I mean by that? Well, you better integrate time into your travel. So here's what's really cool. We'll start with the fun. You got your own charger that comes with the Silverado EV, and it comes with this is the Tesla adapter. So simple open up, and you can, connect this bad boy in, and then you can connect yourself into a Tesla supercharger. So you've got that option. Then you got your standard option, which you can plug into your normal outlet at home. Plugging in at home, get ready. It's going to take some extra time, like a lot of time. But if you go to a Tesla supercharger, it could be faster. So what do you want to know about charging? Well, here's the scoop. This can charge up to 350 kilowatts. It can take 300. Some of the ways it's explained, to me, I'll make it easy. This can intake 350 kilowatts of electricity while you're at a charger. And that's the highest capacity you can currently go in pulling into a charging station. So a fast charger is going to be 350 kilowatts. And that can mean charging this 100 miles in about 10 minutes. Now, that depends on how many people are on that post. So if you look at like any one of the chargers out there, but like Electrify America, if they don't have a designated line of electricity coming in that's solely for that charging station, then you could be there a lot longer if there are 5, 10, 15 cars lined up and they're all pulling from the same electric receptacle, if you will, right? The line coming in. So that's something that you absolutely have to think about is, what does your timing look like for your trip? Are you going to spend more time waiting for this to charge? The answer is yes. You have to mentally prepare for that. But the cool thing is if you have a charger at home, when you plug in at night, you leave in the morning, you're ready to rock and roll. You're at 100% every single day. All right, before we go, don't forget your cable and your charger. This is super important. Don't forget to put it in your car. I throw it in the back seat because I don't want to go into the e-trunk. It's just easier. And now, you know what? Let's go talk about interior. It's the last thing we got to talk about. Interior, baby. Let's do it. So if I had to guess, you're watching this video because you want to learn more about electrification as it relates to the Chevy Silverado. So a couple things I want to focus on the inside that don't pertain to the truck itself. Well, kind of, but just some things if you're a buyer that you need to be concerned about, or at least think about. And as an auto journalist, we have a responsibility to you as the person at home to communicate what we see, what we feel, and in this case, what we smell on the inside of this vehicle, or the vehicles that we test drive. So in the case of this Silverado EV, the very first thing that I noticed when I got behind the wheel was the smell of plastic, right? It's not the smell of leather. It's not an ambiguous smell. It's just the smell of plastic. Now, granted, it's been 100 degrees every single day that we've been test driving this vehicle. So that might be playing a role into it, but you know, automakers use a lot of plastic because it's lighter weight, and that light weight allows them, you know, to get more mileage and more fuel efficiency out of this vehicle. So I understand the reason they use it. It's just for me, while test driving it, I smell a lot of plastic. The other thing is that it's been 100 degrees for the last week of test driving this, and the fans are not here. They're not here. They are like way down here, man. And I have had to blast them to try and keep myself cool inside the vehicle. Now, I could probably adjust the seat a little bit more and try and get it to a better spot, but I could use one set of fans. Now, there's nowhere to put them because of the big screen, which I think is truly amazing. But just hindsight 2020 for those engineers that are working on this vehicle or building this vehicle, you got to remember that the cockpit is my cabin. It's where I live, and I need more air. There's two down here in the center console and one on the left side. I could be using a lot more air. The positive of the interior is that, man, I love the feel. I love the layout. Like, the massive screen is just right here, center focused. And if there's one thing General Motors does a really good job with, it's making the driver feel like they are the focus of the vehicle. So that's a big time plus for me, is that everything is pointed towards me. Even the dash and the way that the touchscreen is set up, the touchscreen is actually tilted towards me. And that is an amazing thing, because I can tell you right now, a lot of automakers just make it flat. And it's so that the passenger can touch that touchscreen, but I don't care in the case of this. I like the way it's been designed, driver focused. You've heard me talk about it in the past. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, not an option for this vehicle. I've got to use Google Play and their technology, and it's my only option with this. Google Play, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So when you think about it, man, two of those big features, me using my phone, have been eliminated in place of Google Play and Google Store and all their, you know, all their Google-based options. And for me, that's not a plus. I don't want to subscribe to another thing. And there will be some add-on additions that you can buy with or purchase with this vehicle from a subscription standpoint. OnStar in this vehicle. OnStar, still the best. Super Cruise, still the best. Nobody does hands-free autonomous driving better than General Motors. Blanket statement. Tesla does not. General Motors does the best. It's the best user intuitive system that is on the market. I'll talk a little bit about the technology with one pedal. One pedal in this car is fantastic. I'll turn it on there. You can see the car's immediately stopping with one pedal. A lot of people hate one pedal. I really like one pedal, and I use it all the time. It's one of my favorite features because I can take my foot off the gas and the car's automatically stopping. Once your brain understands how to use one pedal, it's just a great piece of technology. And I happen to like that. So one pedal is a plus. I did have an interesting situation happen while driving this vehicle. I had a car stop in front of me, and the emergency braking kicked in and prevented us from an accident. With that said, there was something pretty scary that happened. I was in control and had the ability to control the vehicle. I could have stopped it on my own, but the car did it for me. And it did it with such impact and pulse that it threw everything forward in the car, and my concern was less about hitting the car in front of me and more about the car behind me hitting us, because it slammed and came to a stop when the car in front of me gently tapped their brakes. It was aggressive, so I shouldn't say gently, but the car in front of me hit their brakes. I went to hit my brakes, and before I could get to it, the car was already slamming itself, with the emergency braking system. And I thought that was a great technology, with the only exception being the fact that I was concerned about the car behind me. So it's something to kind of think about. Emergency braking, I think, is a great technology. Would I have hit the car in front of me? No, but I was concerned about the car behind me impacting me. Steering wheel, fantastic. Seats, fantastic. Definitely a standard truck from the way it's appointed on the inside. There's nothing on the inside that I don't like about how this truck has been put together. Feels like a Silverado, is a Silverado. It's got heads-up display. A lot of cars come with a heads-up display, but their technology, it's bright, it's in my face, it's easy to see. I like the way it's user-friendly, and it's not cluttered with too many things. You can set your regen braking with this vehicle, and one cool feature that I really like about one pedal is the fact that with one pedal on the left side of the steering wheel, I can take my foot off the brake and the car will do the slow one pedal stop. But if I wanted to stop it like normal braking, I can have an aggressive stop by depressing the paddle on the left side on the top. I hit it, car comes to a complete stop, and I think that is just wildly cool. I like the ability of utilizing new features in vehicles, and that's one that you get. Very cool piece of technology. Moonroof on this, massive moonroof with more of a blackout material up top, blackout fabric. I like that. I can't see through the top. Some vehicles put that lighter colored stuff up here, lighter fabric. I like the fact that it's darker. 2 cup holders, wireless induction, USB-C charging, all the various features you want. Everything's going to be controlled for the most part from your infotainment screen. You got a little cubby on the left side of the dash. I dig that as well. You could just stow your cell phone away. If you are, passenger princess in here, nice easy place to stow things away. Rubber floor mats, dig that as well. Probably also contributing to that smell. And then you got a really cool Bose speaker system. You can't go wrong with Bose. It's always trusted in the market. Overall, very cool, very well appointed. Of the 2026 Chevy Silverado EV. Some things I wanted to point out just before we even get into driving dynamics of the vehicle is that, let the boogeyman go. It's electric, right? And it's fun to drive. It drives like a normal truck. There's nothing that makes this truck drive any differently than any other truck on the road. It's the same thing. I got my water bottle. I've got my coffee. I got everything I need to enjoy my driving experience. It happens to be electric. By the way, for this part of the review, what's really cool about the Midgate with this, which is the ability to drop the second row seats and expose the tailgate area, is that you can also leave the window out, which, as you're watching this video, the window is out in the back. I was kind of curious what the road noise would be, and it's very minimal. I think I'd be driving a lot with this window down. It's kind of cool. I actually feel some of the breeze coming through the vehicle as well. So overall driving, right, when you think about that 700 plus horsepower and that 700 plus pounds-feet of torque and the 10,000 pound towing capacity,
What does it feel like to drive this vehicle on a daily basis? Well, let me tell you this. I can be the first one to the red light. I can be the fastest one on the on-ramp. I can take out many cars on the market, including just about every truck, which is something that I think is really cool. When I hit the wow button, which is wide open watts, I love that. Good work, marketing team. But wide open watts, you can hear it. That's the sound of wide open watts kicking in, which means all the usable electricity in this vehicle is now being pushed to all the tires on this vehicle. That means when I pull up next to this Ram Power Wagon, I can absolutely smoke him off the line, like, because it's electric. And I think that's kind of the interesting power, the interesting business proposition with this is that I can just shred right off the line. That's so cool. And I'm starting to become attuned to the whine of an electric vehicle. It's kind of cool. Is there going to be a practical nature that you need to consider, a practical application that you need to consider if you want to buy one of these? Of course. 10,000 pounds towing capacity, but when you're pulling with an EV, that's going to reduce your range. So when you talk about 450 plus miles of range, you're going to reduce that number. 400 miles of range, you're going to reduce that number. 350 miles of range, you're going to reduce that number because you're towing behind the vehicle. I know it's a lot of information to take in, but there's a lot more you have to consider when it comes to an electric vehicle. Charging with a trailer, think about driving long distances. All of these things come into play when you have an electric vehicle. And those are things that you have to consider with the Chevy Silverado EV. And finally, let's talk about Super Cruise. Absolutely my favorite level 2 autonomous technology in the market. The screen sensor, all of it integrated together. The sensor's right on top of the steering wheel. I literally can drive with about a foot without my foot on the gas or the brake, accelerator and the brake. I just think it's the coolest technology ever. And the only one that I really trust is General Motors. I don't really trust anybody else. It's the easiest, most intuitive taste of what it's like to drive without your hands on the wheel. In fact, I've had a sandwich while using Super Cruise. It's that good. And what's also unique about it is that it's alerting me of everything going on around me. Right now, it's auto lane changing. I did nothing. It senses the car in front of me, it senses the car behind me, and it will automatically change lanes for me. That is just amazing technology, that the car will do this on its own. I just think it's phenomenal. So if you want a car that has real autonomous technology, you're gonna get it with this. Again, changing lanes without me doing anything. I can feel confident and comfortable going down any freeway that Super Cruise is gonna do exactly what I need it to do.
And with every review, you always got to jump into the back seat, and we've done that in the Silverado EV. Let me tell you right off the bat, it's a truck, and you got plenty of leg room, right? So plenty of leg room back here, not a lot of frills. USB-C charging down below. You got vents here. You've got heated seats for both the passengers, occupants in the second row. You don't have any air up top. That's a little bit of a concern. A lot of automakers are starting to put vents up here. So for your second row seating, this is the only air that you have. A little bit concerning for me, to be perfectly honest, given the situation up in front with the air and the lack of volume of air. Simplicity on the doors as well. You guys ready for this? So it's called the Midgate, and you probably haven't seen it before. This whole seat comes down and extends the truck bed from that 5 foot 11 inches of space up to north of 10 plus. So I'm going to come over your way a little bit. Check this out. They thought of everything. Your seat belt goes into the side to keep it out of the way. You drop your headrest down, and then I'm going to drop all the headrests down. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and undo these to remove this glass. Notice the catch. I love the fact that there's a catch there. And then to do this, get on my knee, come here, drop this side right here with a push of the button. Where did the button go? There it is. How about that? And it broke. Okay, now you go to the button on this side or the other side. Pop it here. Pop it here. Stow your seatbelt away. And then either button works, which is really cool. But before we drop it, we have to stow our glass away. Make sure the glass is fully inserted in where this lever will drop down. Hit the button, and voila. Wasn't too bad, right? If you learn it and you do it a couple of times, it'll be much easier. In the case of us doing it, it's our first time doing it, so took us a minute or two, but think about that, all that extra space. I mean, even camping, you could put a mattress, bring that mattress all the way up to here. You could sleep in the back of this. That's pretty cool functionality, I think. So overall, definitely an A+ for me on utilizing the truck to its fullest. All right, so with your key fob, you're gonna open up the hood. And guess what? Underneath the hood is absolutely nothing. And that's because it's an electric vehicle, right? They don't need to have an engine. But tucked below the hood and this engine compartment are the Ultium batteries that General Motors takes a lot of pride in. They're in fact some of the best batteries you can find in the market. And the Ultium platform shares the same DNA with the Hummer EV and the Cadillac Lyriq. It's kind of like saying outdoorsy buff Mr. Rock got together with like elegant Carrie Underwood, and they're sharing DNA, right? You have the best of all worlds encapsulated in one vehicle, and that's the Silverado EV. So from a performance standpoint, what does all of that mean to you, the consumer driving the vehicle? Well, it means 750 horsepower. Pause and think about that. 785 pounds-feet of torque. That is a tremendous amount of performance under the hood of this vehicle, right? And that's what gives you that 0 to 60 in roughly 4.5 seconds. Now, General Motors have an additional feature in here when you go into the drive modes. There's no sport mode. When you go into drive mode, there's a little circle at the bottom, and that's called the WOW mode, which stands for wide open watts, which means they take all of that electricity and they just shove it into the electric motors and say, go fast. That's what's going to give you that 4.50 to 60. That's blazing speed for a full-size pickup truck. And just when you thought the clicking of the key fob was over, it's not. We're going to go down all 233 inches of length of this Silverado EV, and we're going to check out the multifunction tailgate. And it's important because nobody does it better. Remember the commercial a few years ago? Chevy dropped. It might have been a Super Bowl commercial, but it was like, na, 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 hey, 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 goodbye. They were saying goodbye to the old tailgates, right? So check this out. First off, it's aluminum. And I mean, dude, that is just, honestly, the coolest thing ever. It's so lightweight. You got a workstation. Put your laptop up here. Put your beers up here if you're at the lake fishing. So here's what's kind of unique is that the previous versions of the multifunction tailgate, you could actually click the button here and then the whole thing would drop down. I think for safety reasons, they've stopped that. You actually now have to put the entire multifunction part back up, then drop your actual tailgate down, then come under the bottom here, and then this will drop for your granny step. But before I show you the granny step, what's another great feature of this? You're now removing the tailgate length where you have now easier access to get inside your truck bed. I don't think anybody does it better. And then you can drop this down. Before I step in, I sit down, right? So now I've got a really cool tailgate feature. When you think of a multifunction tailgate, you want to be able to do all of these things. And that's what's really cool, right? Ability to get inside the back of the truck is great. The ability to sit, the ability to have easy access, the super easy availability or the luxury of having a lightweight tailgate that you just close up. So what does all that mean? Really cool functionality from the standpoint of a truck. But of course, you're going to ask, because I'm down here at the back of the truck, what's towing capacity? It's an electric truck. So your towing capacity is at 10,000 pounds. And I want to go back to the statement that I made at the very beginning of the video, right? I might as well sit down for this one because it's going to be a little bit of an explanation. So at the very beginning of the video, I was talking about the fact that you could go from LA to Las Vegas and you could stop it in and out and you could do burnouts and then you could drive back to Los Angeles. That's just mileage, right? 450 miles of distance, but that's not taking one incredible thing, one super important thing into consideration. And that is you have to go up the Cajon Pass, right? We're talking about 4 or 5 miles of straight uphill in a truck towing. So I can tell you right now, that range to and from Las Vegas, from LA to Las Vegas, ain't gonna work. Stuck in traffic, delays on the road, you're gonna be going up a massive mountain, driving through 110 degrees in the middle of the desert in Barstow to finally make your way into Las Vegas. I can tell you right now, you are gonna zap that battery faster than flicking a tick off the back of a dog. Like it is gonna be, it's going to be draining. So it's something for you to think about, right? 10,000 pounds of towing capacity, pretty cool. Multifunction tailgate, but remember, there are limitations to having an electric vehicle. All right, who's ready to close it out? There's only going to be one thing left to talk about, and that's going to be the price. And for this, I actually brought the Monroney. Let me start with the positives, right? I think overall the truck's a truck. I mean, it might be electric, but the thing's got 10,000 pounds of towing capacity. It's got a ton of torque, right? 785 foot-pounds of torque and 754 horsepower and a 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Like, look, if I want to be the first one to a red light, I can in this truck. And there are going to be many cars that I take out when I blister them with my 0 to 60 time. But you don't care about that right now. What you do care about is the price. And this is where it's going to get a little bit ugly. So the average transaction price for a vehicle right now on the market is still sitting around $47,000, $48,000. The starting price of this at base model is under $55,000. But to be perfectly honest, that's irrelevant because you're not going to find one for $55,000. Starting price of this one right here is $89,500. That's just starting base price on the Chevy Silverado EV in the LT trim level. Of course, there's the RST and different trim levels, but this one, from a base standpoint, is sitting at that $89,500 standpoint. And then you add on $3,700 worth of options, you're going to be looking at a vehicle that is north of $90,000. In fact, we priced this out. It was $99,000, right under $100,000 for the total price. So that's what you have to figure out. Are you willing to spend that money to say, hey, I'm willing to try an electric vehicle. I'm willing to go a little bit more green. Many Americans are. Some are not quite in that, that they don't have the pocketbook to afford a $100,000 truck. And to close it out, guys, if you like this truck, like the video, please. If you guys want to see me tow a Cybertruck with this, then hit that, smash that subscribe button below. I'll go find one. I'll find a flatbed and we'll tow it and we'll see what happens. And if you guys aren't following me on my other social channels, please do. Pretty easy. Just follow Chasing Horsepower. That's where we're making all these kinds of videos. And as always, if you guys like this video as much as I've enjoyed putting it together, make sure you hit all those buttons below.